All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. Coverage of the conference finals here at Hoops Tonight is brought to you by Chase Freedom Unlimited. How do you cash back? We are also live on AMP, so if you're listening on YouTube or listening on the podcast feeds, don't forget that AMP is the very first place that you guys can get these shows. Well, the Denver Nuggets have gone up 2-0 on the Los Angeles Lakers, putting them in a very precarious position. It's going to be very difficult for the Lakers to win 4 out of the next 5 games. So the Nuggets are in a commanding position. So congratulations to Nuggets fans. You're in good shape potentially for a run to the NBA Finals. The series is not over. Going to get into a lot of stuff, but man, you got to be feeling pretty good if you're in Denver right now. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Volume's YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss any show announcements. And if for whatever reason you guys miss one of these shows and you can't get back over to YouTube to finish, don't forget, you can find them wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. Last but not least, you guys have heard me talk about Game Time, the fastest growing ticketing app in the United States. If you're looking to get out to an NBA game, if you're looking to get out to a baseball game or a concert or a comedy show, Game Time has amazing last-minute deals on tickets to all of these. So if you're trying to get out and see your favorite artist perform in a concert, Game Time's got a deal for you. If you want to get out, if you're a Nuggets fan, you want to get out to Game 5, Game Time's going to have a deal for you. They've taken amazing care of me in the past. I know they're going to take amazing care of you guys. I highly recommend you try it. So no matter where you live, get out and have some fun this week. Download the Game Time app, enter email, and redeem code HOOPS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, enter your email and code HOOPS, that's HOOPS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so what I'd like to do as we kind of work through this, I'm not going to go too heavy into the X's and O's tonight. We're going to talk a couple of things specifically with the success that Jamal Murray was having at the end of the game. But obviously, like any other fan, as you guys know, I'm rooting for the Lakers in this series. They're my one rooting interest. I was very invested in what was a highly entertaining basketball game. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to rewatch the game in its entirety and do a more detailed X's and O's breakdown in the morning. Also for you Eastern Conference Finals people interested in that series, I'm going to do a little film breakdown on that as well. But let's start with the Battle of the Bigs. So I thought this was a great example of the difference between Nikola Jokic and Anthony Davis. Now, remember, with the way that I view best player in the world conversations, it's very different than the way a lot of other people view them. Like for me, it's kind of like a status symbol that you earn as a sign of respect, right? And so I kind of was leaning towards Anthony Davis after the Golden State Warriors series because, one, he had just outplayed Steph Curry, who I thought was the second best player in the world, and Giannis Antetokounmpo had kind of removed himself from the discussion. And I thought he outplayed him mainly on the defensive end of the floor, and he's a champion. I thought he played at a superstar level in the 2020 playoffs, including outplaying Nikola Jokic head-to-head, albeit 3 years ago. And I thought he kind of deserved that title for now. Nikola Jokic can absolutely grab it, but for me, you got to have the trophy. And so that's just kind of like my recognition of the way that I refer to the best player in the world, right? But in terms of like who's a better basketball player in this series, I mean, it's screaming off the screen through 2 games. And I thought it was evident in them both having kind of down games, you know, and this is a great example of why I hate looking at box scores, because if you look at Anthony Davis's box score from game 1, he had 40 points and 10 rebounds. And I thought he was so disengaged on the defensive end compared to what he's capable of and on the glass, and especially in transition defense, that I didn't think it was one of his best games. And this one kind of followed more what you would expect from the box score. This was a bad Anthony Davis game. He competed defensively at a higher level than he did in the first game. He competed on the glass at a higher level than he did in the first game, but not to any sort of amazing extent. You don't leave this game thinking Anthony Davis is the overwhelming defensive force that you felt many times during the Golden State series and during the Memphis Grizzlies series. And he goes 4 for 15 from the field. He has 14 rebounds. That's where the rebounding effort showed up. But he had 4 turnovers, including 2 pivotal turnovers in the fourth quarter that both led to Nuggets runouts. And he just gave you absolutely nothing on the offensive end. And, you know, again, like it's been overstated, the Anthony Davis up and down thing, because he tends to be pretty damn good defensively night in and night out for the most part. And so it's unfair to be like, oh, Anthony Davis had 16. He was garbage tonight. It's like, well, did he anchor your defense as you got a win, like game 6 against Memphis? Then, yeah, that's actually a pretty damn good game. But there all of the coverage of Anthony Davis and his offensive struggles going up and down are legitimate. Like, the dude just, for whatever reason, one game he's super polished with those little push shots and hook shots in the lane, and then the next game he just can't make them. And he got great looks in the paint in this game, and he just couldn't make them. And it becomes a problem because with the way that Denver runs their pick and roll coverage, and they kind of tweaked it at various points in this game. Like, they've been coming with a high drop for the most part through 3 halves of the series, and then they sat him way back to start a little bit in game 2, but then they started bringing him way back up to the level of the screen again a little bit there in that fourth quarter. But either way, the pocket pass is what's open there. And so it's like absolutely vitally important to the Laker offense for Anthony Davis to be making those little floaters and pop shots in the lane. It's an important part of the chain of the Laker offense as a virtue of the coverage. Remember, the coverage dictates the way you have to attack. When teams run drop, you need to have guys that can either hit pull-up jump shots or apply pressure on the rim or make shots in the pocket or hit the shots on the kick out when they tag the roller, right? When they're switching, it's much more about mismatch hunting, and you've got to be able to back a guy down closer to the rim or beat him off the dribble or consistently shoot over the top. Like that, in this particular coverage that Denver is running, bad Anthony Davis games are going to be absolutely devastating to the Laker offense. And now we look at the Jokic game, which I also thought was, by Jokic's standards, not his best. He's been pretty bad defensively in the entire series. The Lakers have mostly had their way with him in his pick and roll coverage, but he was otherworldly great in game 1. And also, I want to give him a little bit more credit. Defensively, a huge part of closing out defensive possessions is grabbing defensive rebounds. And obviously, he's done a great job controlling the defensive glass throughout this series. But with Nikola Jokic, like, his bad game is 9 for 21 from the field, still made a bunch of shots when his team needed him to, still made a bunch of those little hook shots and push shots and floaters and ones, still got to the foul line, still crashed the offensive glass, still controlled the defensive glass, and had 12 assists. And that's the difference, is with Nikola Jokic, he's a little bit more resilient when it comes to the ups and downs that take place over the course of an NBA playoff series. And that's the thing. Like, what did I say coming out of game 2 or coming out of game 1 in my film session? I said, I actually thought effort played a role for both teams. I thought the Lakers really mailed in the first half and never really truly gained control of the game defensively until the last 6 minutes. And then when I went back and rewatched the game, I thought Denver was really, really sloppy defensively in the second half of that game, where I thought they let go of the rope, so to speak. So effort was such a huge role in that first game in the Lakers struggling so much early and the Nuggets struggling so much late. And so I said I expected this to be much more low scoring, and I expected both teams to shoot in the mid-40s. Well, LA shot 44% from the field, and the Nuggets shot 44% from the field. Honestly, the difference in the game, I said both teams would shoot in the mid-30s from 3 and the Lakers would win close. Well, the Nuggets shot in the mid-30s from 3 and the Lakers shot in the mid-20s from 3. And that really is the difference in the game. If the Lakers were going to win this game, they needed to knock down a couple more of those threes. They needed LeBron to go 2 for 6 instead of 0 for 6. They needed D'Angelo Russell to go 2 for 5 instead of 1 for 5. And so that's kind of the difference in the game. And, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Laker effort stuff later, but that's just the reality of their predicament in the series. Denver is better than Golden State and is better than Memphis, specifically when it comes to offensive firepower. And so you really held them under your thumb for 3 quarters for the most part. I'll say 2 2/3 of a quarter, because that late quarter run for the Nuggets. But they have so much firepower that they are capable of beating you even when you throw your best punch. That's the difference. This is not a series where the Lakers can go up and down with their effort level in that same cadence that they did in the first 2 rounds. In game 1, I thought the Lakers kind of punted it. In game 2, the Lakers gave you everything they got, and it still wasn't enough because Jamal Murray caught fire at the end of the game. And that's absolutely a risk. So there are, 5 games left in this series. And even if the Lakers do throw 5 great punches, they might only win. They need to win 4 of those, but they have a chance to lose those games anyway because of the sheer amount of firepower that Denver has. That's the difference. As LeBron said at every round, each test gets a little bit harder, right? Like after Memphis, he goes, this next one's going to be harder. Well, he said that right after the Warriors series, like this one's going to be harder. Well, you're learning that in real time with how good this Denver Nuggets team is. So I want to talk about Jamal Murray. So I talked a lot about in the series preview, I believe, about the way he's a complimentary star to Nikola Jokic. And actually, I think it was after Game 6 against Phoenix. But that's the reality of the way that this partnership works. It's very similar to the LeBron James and Anthony Davis partnership, where what makes it work offensively is they kind of play complementary parts. You need two pieces to a strong pick and roll attack, and both of them can fulfill really both ends of that role. They can even run inverted stuff. And the same goes for Murray and Jokic. The Lakers just did a much better job of, on the pocket pass to Nikola Jokic, of having LeBron come off of Aaron Gordon and tag Jokic quickly, and Anthony Davis running back to Aaron Gordon. The Lakers were so sharp on the backside of their defense. But here's the thing, and this is another part of what makes Nikola Jokic so damn good. He's an incredible screener. He's one of the best screeners in the game. And so how did the Nuggets get off at the end of the game? They stopped going to the damn pocket pass, and Jamal Murray started coming off of those dribble handoffs looking to shoot. And again, you held him down. I think, what was he, 5 for 17 through three quarters, I believe, or something. I can't remember the exact number, but he didn't shoot well for 3 quarters, but he broke away in that fourth quarter. And that's the beauty of complementary stars. So the Lakers are throwing the kitchen sink at the Jokic part of that dribble handoff and of that pick and roll, right? Like they're tagging him on the roll, they're helping off the weak side and rotating. LeBron, I thought, did an amazing job defending Jokic for portions of this game, and that's something the Lakers are going to have to explore more over the course of the series. But against the truly elite guys, you have to concede something. And if Anthony Davis is going to sag back on the roll, or if LeBron James and Rui Hachimura are going to stay glued to Nikola Jokic, then you need the guard to chase over the top of those actions and apply pressure to Jamal Murray, and they just didn't. And they tried a bunch of different things too. Eventually, they tried an Anthony Davis switch on Jamal Murray. And I called this out in the moment, but there were 3 seconds left on the shot clock, and Anthony Davis is playing back, conceding a jump shot to Jamal Murray, and kudos to Jamal Murray. Hit him with a hard step back and knocked it down. And on the AD front, like, that's the thing, dude. You're not bringing anything to the table offensively. You have to be perfect defensively to help your team. That needs to be your competitive response to the fact that your shot's not falling. And in a pivotal possession of the game, you conceded a step back jump shot to a hot shooter. And from there, it just didn't matter. And I mean, I've talked about this a lot with skill development when we talk about it on the show, but with pull-up jump shooting in particular, when you get to your muscle memory, it's over, really, once you're in rhythm. And you can get disrupted from your rhythm in a bunch of different ways, but all these guys, Jamal Murray is just one guy in a long line of guards in this league where when they really got it going, it just doesn't matter what you do. As long as they get just a fraction of separation, they've just worked so hard over the years on these complicated off-the-dribble jump shots that you're helpless. And so that's the thing. And that's the beauty of both of these teams in a lot of ways, is they just have so many different ways they can beat you, right? Like any given game, Austin Reeves can go for 25. He's gone for 20 plus 5 times in this playoff run. D'Angelo Russell is giving the Lakers over 30 in a game, but the Nuggets can do the same thing. Jokic can kill you one game. Jamal Murray can kill you one game. You have the Michael Porter Jr. factor at any given moment. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope had his season high in field goals made, if I remember correctly, in game 1. So, like, both of these teams have way too much firepower for any team to get away with laziness. And so I thought game 1 was a lazy game for both teams that the Nuggets ended up winning. And I thought game 2 was both teams threw their best punch and the Nuggets were just better. And, and again, we'll talk about it when we get to the Lakers, but LeBron James in particular, I thought really got fatigued down the stretch of that game. But shout out to Jamal Murray, man. Like, we always talk about the 2-1-1 theory, right? You need 2 games from your best player, you need 1 game from your second best player, and you need 1 game from your role players to win the series. Well, you got a Jokic game. He was best player on the floor by a mile in game 1, dominates. Well, you just got your Jamal Murray game. If Jokic gets you 1 more and you have another game where all your role players get hot, that's the series right there. So Jamal Murray, game 2 of the 2023 Western Conference Finals will be referred to as the Jamal Murray game looking forward. Let's talk about a couple of the guys on the Nuggets I wanted to shout out. I thought Bruce Brown was awesome throughout this game, particularly on the defensive end. He was applying a lot of pressure to LeBron James over the course of the game. I thought that was a big part of the fatigue element that led to LeBron missing some of those threes in the fourth quarter. He also hit 2 massive threes in the third quarter in transition. You know, you could tell what I really appreciate about Bruce Brown's game is he's got kind of a slow release, and it's definitely not exactly a fluid shot. It's very rigid and has a little bit of a hitch in it. But to his credit, he's got great muscle memory. Every Bruce Brown 3 looks exactly the same, and you could see when he really has the space and can load up into his form and trust his muscle memory, that thing's going in. And he made 2 massive ones. Michael Porter Jr. made a huge 3 during that run in transition. I'm really impressed by the Nuggets. Like I said, if you're a Nuggets fan, congrats to you guys. You've got a great team and you're in great shape. Man, I'm blown away by the offensive firepower. Because, like, again, the Laker defense is real. You saw that in that first half, held them down to 48. But the sign of a truly great offense is that they can always push through, even against the truly great defenses. And there you go. They go for, 50, 60 points in the second half. So there you go. Difference in the game. Let's talk a little bit about the Laker effort. So, again, the Lakers followed a very similar cadence over the first 2 series. They threw the kitchen sink in game 1, won the game. Punted game 2, threw the kitchen sink in game 3, blew them out in both series. Kind of tried to do the bare minimum to win game 4 in both series, barely won both games. Then they punted game 5, and then they threw the kitchen sink in game 6 and won. And again, those are teams that, again, and I actually think the Warriors in particular are very good. But I think this Nuggets team is probably better than any team that was in the Western Conference in last year's playoff run. And so, again, this is the way that competition steps up as things progress. And in this particular series, even when the Lakers throw their best punch, as you saw tonight, they're not going to be able to overcome every single time. And so what that tells me is that strategy of mailing it in is going to end this series quickly. If they mail in one of those 2 games in LA, this series can be over in 5. And again, they have to win 4 of the next 5 games, and the only chance that they do that is if they bring hellacious effort in all 5 games, simply because they're probably going to lose one of those anyway. And again, the series is not over. I'm never going to count out LeBron James and Anthony Davis. LeBron James, multiple times in his career, has come back from down 2-0 to win a playoff series. He did it against the Warriors in 2016. He did it against the Pistons in 2007. He's done it before. But this is a different phase in his career, and him and Anthony Davis just haven't quite been good enough, and that's a big part of why they're down 2-0. But in order for them to win this series, the 2 of those guys are going to have to be a lot better. Now, LeBron James in particular, I actually thought this was one of his better 2-way playoff games. He was pretty rough defensively in his first shift. He got beat on a back cut by Aaron Gordon. There was a switch with Anthony Davis where he's supposed to run down to the rim with Nikola Jokic, and he didn't. He just conceded the shot to Nikola Jokic. But when he came back in the second quarter, or end of the first quarter for his second shift, he was incredible. Defended Nikola Jokic, was cooking in high pick and roll, controlled everything for them offensively while they were getting absolutely nothing anywhere else on the roster. I thought it was one of LeBron's best 2-way playoff games. But here's the problem. At this phase in his career, he just doesn't have the gas tank that he used to have, and he didn't get anything from anybody else. And so when he got to the fourth quarter, the legs weren't there, start settling for threes, and LeBron's having one of those postseasons like 2015 where he's just, for whatever reason, just can't get it going with the jump shot. And it reminds me so much of 2015 because there are these moments for a game or two where you see it come through, but this slump just never ends for him. And those were pretty damn good looks there in that fourth quarter, but they're concession shots because he's tired. Like, he's just like, I need to just throw this up essentially as a punt, and hopefully I make 1 or 2 of them, and he made 0 of them. But I'm not going to get too down on LeBron because I thought he was the best player on the floor for the Lakers tonight, and actually was the best player on the floor in the game through 3 quarters. He just didn't bring enough in that fourth quarter. Anthony Davis, again, like we talked about earlier, when he has these bad offensive games, specifically against the Nuggets, it's just going to be super detrimental to their offense. But again, when that's happening, he needs to dominate the game defensively, and I didn't think he brought enough defensively in this game to make up for what he did offensively. Couple Three adjustments that I wrote down for the Lakers. And again, I'm going to do a film session tomorrow morning for both teams, well, both series of 4 teams, and kind of go over adjustments for everybody. But things that stood out for me in the live watching, with that Murray dribble handoff, it's time for them to go to what they did in the 2020 bubble, which is put LeBron James on Jamal Murray and put Anthony Davis on Nikola Jokic and switch the handoff. Or if you're going to put Rui Hachimura on Nikola Jokic, still put LeBron James on Jamal Murray and switch the dribble handoff. That's basically what they did in the 2020 playoffs, which led to Jamal Murray going for ISOs, where at least in ISOs, he's got to generate separation rather than getting separation naturally as part of the coverage because of how good of a screener Nikola Jokic is. So that's an adjustment I expect the Lakers to make. Got to stop sending Anthony Davis to the offensive glass. Now, if you want to see an example of what I'm talking about, you'll see it in the on my Twitter feed. I actually tweeted out a video that kind of demonstrated an example of what I'm talking about. Anthony Davis crashed the offensive glass all night and had 1 offensive rebound. Why? Because Nikola Jokic, for as bad as he is defensively, is a fantastic defensive rebounder. And so he's not getting any advantage there. And what's happening is the Lakers are sending 2 forwards every single possession to the offensive glass, and the Nuggets are running on them. And so the play that you'll see, there's a Austin Reeves pick and roll, if I remember correctly, and Austin throws a great cross-court pass to D'Angelo Russell. He takes a 3 and misses it. But both Jared Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis crash the offensive glass and miss. If you freeze frame it, when Jokic gets the rebound, both of those 2 guys are the furthest back, and there's 5 on 3 going the other way. And to Vanderbilt and AD's credit, they sprinted back, but they weren't back in time. And Michael Porter Jr. ends up getting a corner 3. So at a certain point, when you acknowledge the fact that the Lakers are actually getting a ton of stops in the half court against the Nuggets, and Jamal Murray just got hot with a bunch of difficult shot making in that fourth quarter, you're going to win the series if you can keep them in the half court and trust the shot result with Jamal Murray, right? As long as they bring the right amount of effort. But the Nuggets are thrashing them in transition. At a certain point, you have to make an adjustment and stop sending guys to the offensive glass. That's an adjustment I expect. And the D'Angelo Russell, this is 2 games now where he's looked pretty much unplayable. He's getting into it with Bruce Brown and clearly letting it affect him. He's dying on screens. He's not competing on the glass. He's not hitting shots. Like, again, with D'Angelo Russell, if he's not hitting shots, he doesn't bring enough to the table to justify having him out there. That's where you're almost better off going with the Troy Brown Jr. Even though he has his own limitations, at least he's going to compete defensively and on the glass. And so it might be time to go away from D'Angelo Russell. I would try him in game 3 just in hope that the home court energy kind of brings a certain level to D'Lo that he can be impactful. But you need to have a quick leash with D'Angelo Russell and take him out of the game if it's not working well. Looking forward, I do believe the Lakers will win game 3. But obviously, this Nuggets team is so good that they have a very good chance of stealing one of the 2 games in LA. And no matter what, it's extremely difficult to beat a team 3 times in a row. So if the Lakers win both home games, it's just so difficult to then go on the road and beat the Nuggets. Just ask the Phoenix Suns. That's why when you go down 2-0 in a series, you lose almost every time. It's not over. They have a chance, but they've dug themselves in a significant hole. The Nuggets should feel like significant favorites. They have a fantastic chance to win the series. Like I said, if you're a Nuggets fan, you should feel like you're in great shape. Don't forget tomorrow morning, I keep an eye on the feed. It should be up around 11 noon or so Pacific Standard Time, but I'll have a film breakdown from this game. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys, and I will see you next time.